This is a peacock, and this is a peahen. The male peacock uses its magnificent display of feathers and its courtship dance to attract a female peahen. If he's successful, the birds will form a breeding pair. An albatross spends most of the year wandering above the oceans of the world, but at breeding time it flies south to the Antarctic. Here the young adult birds compete to find a mate and set up their own breeding area or territory, where they carry out a strange courtship display. When the courting's over and the nest is built, the two birds mate. It may take a few years before a young albatross finds a mate, but when it does, they pair up for life. When the kingfisher has chosen its partner, the two birds begin the hard work drilling a long hole into the riverbank for their nest. When the nest is complete, the male kingfisher courts the female by giving her a fish. When she's swallowed the fish, the birds mate. The male perches on the back of the female and wraps his tail under her tail until the reproductive openings, called cloacus, are together. This is a diagram of the sex organs. The male has 2 testes, you can only see one in the diagram, and inside each testis millions of sperm are produced. During mating, the sperm pass from the testes in a watery fluid through the joined cloacus and into the female. The male then flies off, and inside the female, the sperm pass up a tube called the oviduct. The female has only one oviduct, and at the top is the single ovary. An egg cell with its yolk is released from the ovary into the oviduct, where it's surrounded by the sperm. One sperm fertilizes the egg cell, and with the yolk it's squeezed down the oviduct, where first it's surrounded with albumin, the white of the egg, and finally, in a special gland, the shell is formed. The female produces 5 eggs, which the birds keep warm for 21 days. To find out what happens to an egg cell, let's look inside a chicken's egg. This is the fertilized egg cell. With a special film, we can watch it divide and grow into an embryo, using the yolk for its food. This is the size of the embryo 33 hours after the egg is laid. At the next stage, we can see the heart beating in the developing chick. By 15 days, most of the food has been used up, and it's beginning to look like a chick. "21 days after laying, and the chick is ready to hatch out. This can take more than an hour. In just 3 weeks, the fertilized egg cell has grown and developed into a new life. But the job of the parents isn't over after hatching. The young kingfishers, which have hatched out after 21 days, have to be fed. In the safety of the nest, the young, unlike the chick, hatch out naked and blind. They have enormous appetites and their parents are kept very busy. Soon their eyes are open and their feathers, like their appetites, have grown. At this stage, the young birds are eating up to 10 fish each every day. The young birds are now ready to face the outside world. But for life to go on with about the same number of kingfishers, most young birds do not survive. Those that do survive will have to learn to fend for themselves in a world where they can't even rely on their own relatives. In the breeding season, the roar of the stag attracts the females, the hinds, and also warns other males to keep out of its territory. Each stag tries to gather together a group of hinds, and if it's strong enough to defend them, it'll eventually mate with all of them. But there are always other stags with other ideas. This time the challenger's driven off and the stronger stag keeps the hinds. Like the stag, the kangaroo is a mammal, a pouched mammal. Mammals where the female has a pouch are called marsupials. During the breeding season, the animals mate. Inside the female, after 30 to 40 days, the fertilized egg cell has developed into an embryo called a joey, which is ready to be born. This period of development inside the womb is called the gestation period. For such a large animal, the gestation period is very short. When it is born, the joey is blind and naked and it's not very well developed. It has front legs, which it uses to climb through the fur, and a good sense of smell, which guides it to the pouch. Inside the pouch, the joey fastens itself very firmly onto a teat. The teat provides the joey with milk as it continues to grow and develop inside the pouch. The gestation period of the rhinoceros is one of the longest. After fertilization, the egg develops inside the mother for about 18 months before the baby rhino is born. Depending on the breed of dog, the gestation period varies from 2 to 3 months. The mother frees each puppy from its birth sac and then licks them clean. This is very important for the mother and the puppy. Like all newborn mammals, the puppies feed on their mother's milk. The gestation period of cats, as in dogs, varies between 2 to 4 months. These are baby baboons. The gestation period inside the mother is 6 to 7 months. The elephant, the largest land mammal, has the longest gestation period. After fertilization, the egg cell divides and develops for 22 months before the baby elephant is born. In humans, the gestation period, usually called pregnancy, lasts for 9 months. But unlike most other mammals, the human animal doesn't have a breeding season. Inside the female, protected by the bones of the pelvis, are her reproductive organs. On each side there's an ovary. The ovaries are connected by tubes to the uterus or womb. The womb is connected to a tube which opens to the outside, called the vagina. The reproductive organs develop inside young girls as they're growing, and they usually begin to work sometime between the ages of 9 and 13. This is what happens. One ovary begins to produce egg cells one at a time every month. Each egg develops inside a protective capsule, which gets bigger and bigger until it bursts, and the egg cell's able to pass into the tube which leads to the womb. But changes have taken place inside the womb. As the egg cell was preparing to leave the ovary, the inside wall of the womb, which is well supplied with blood vessels and glands, was growing thicker and producing a soft, spongy lining. The womb is now ready. But when the tiny egg cell arrives, it hasn't been fertilized, it hasn't met any sperm, so it just dissolves away. There's now no need for the blood-filled lining, which comes away from the wall and is passed out through the vagina. This takes 6 or 7 days, and is called menstruation, or a period. This period usually occurs at about the same time every month, because one ovary continues to produce a new egg about once every 28 days. As another egg begins to leave the ovary, a new, soft, spongy, blood-filled lining begins to grow in the womb. Again, the egg cell hasn't been fertilized, so it just dissolves away. Once again, the lining of the womb comes away from the wall and passes out through the vagina. The menstrual period is repeated month by month, so long as the egg cell is not fertilized. But fertilization can only take place when the egg cell meets sperms from the male. A man, like all male mammals, has a penis. His sperm are produced in 2 testes. This is a human sperm magnified many times. 200 sperm laid head to tail would be only 2 centimeters long. Young boys first begin to make sperm in their early teens, but there's no place in the body to store sperm. So occasionally, and during the night, the sperm are released through the penis in a slippery fluid. If fertilization of the egg cell is to take place, sperm from the male must be passed into the female through the vagina. During mating, the penis becomes stiff and swollen with blood, and it's then put into the vagina. Sperm from the testes pass along in a fluid through the penis and into the vagina. The penis is then withdrawn. The sperm now pass into the uterus and along the tubes, where if they meet an egg cell, fertilization may take place. Fertilization takes place in the tube soon after the egg cell has left the ovary. The sperm surround the egg cell, and one sperm enters the egg cell and fertilizes it. Soon after fertilization, the egg cell begins to divide. As it divides and grows, the ball of cells slowly makes its way down the tube to the womb. Inside the womb, the wall is beginning to grow its soft, spongy, blood-filled lining. It's getting ready just as it does every month, but instead of an unfertilized egg cell coming along the tube, this time it's a ball of actively growing cells. A new life has been started. When the ball of cells arrives in the womb, it's already 10 days old, and it's still dividing and growing. But the growing ball of cells, now called an embryo, needs food and protection, and that is what the lining of the womb is for. Slowly, the embryo sinks into the soft protective lining, where it will grow and develop for the next 9 months. A new life is born into the world at the end of pregnancy, 9 months after fertilization of the egg cell. Thousands of babies are born every year. When they grow up, they'll produce babies of their own, and so life goes on.